Hello everyone, my name is Natalie and welcome to or back to my channel. Now, I've had my BookTube channel since October, but I had a previous BookTube channel before that where I was on BookTube for about 3 years, and even before that I was on BookTube and watching it. So I know firsthand how confusing some of the terminology and acronyms can be when you enter this community. And even though I know there are a fair few videos out there discussing the terminology and the different acronyms we can have on this side of YouTube, and I do highly recommend you to go and check those out, because some of them go into more depth than I'm going to when today I talk about the terminology and acronyms of BookTube. So I've got a big list that was just coming into my head of different words we use, different acronyms we use, so they're not in any kind of order, so let's just get into it. First one is a DNF. So DNF stands for did not finish. If you do not finish a book, it means that you either can stop reading because you didn't like the book, so you DNF'd it, or it can mean that you recognise that it's not the right time for you to read this book, so you set it down, you know, you're not in the mood for it. Or it could be that you didn't finish a book because, as I've done in the past, you forgot that you were reading it, put it down somewhere, and then one day just found a bookmark in there and remembered that you were reading it. Yeah, I've done that before. Next is TBR. Now TBR stands for to be read, so people do TBR piles where they either show all the books that they have to read that are on their shelves, or they'll set monthly TBRs or quarterly TBRs where they will select a certain amount of books to read and they will show you those books. So quite simple, TBR is to be read. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. I imagine you already know this one, but BookTube means bookish YouTube, bookish videos. But within BookTube we also have the BookToNet, so we've got Book Twitter, Book Instagram, Book TikTok. I'm pretty sure that's all of them. If it's not and there's something I'm forgetting, please let me know down below. Over on the bookish internet we do also have book blogs as well. I don't run a book blog, I don't know anything about book blogs, but I do subscribe to a few and I do read a few, but yeah, book blogs I don't really know anything about. On a side note, I cut my finger on a container last night, so that's why my finger's all bandaged. So this one isn't really to do with YouTube, but you'll certainly see it sometimes over on Twitter and definitely over on Instagram, which is the Shelfie. So Shelfie is just a picture of your bookshelf, so you can take a picture of them and it will be a Shelfie. Now some people talk about ARCs. So ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copies. I think there might be another word for them as well, which is Advanced Reader Proofs, I think. And these are basically books that reviewers can get sent before the actual release date of that book, so that they have pre-reviews for those books. I think the difference between a proof and an ARC is that proofs have unfinished art in them, so the book cover you'll see isn't going to be the final cover, but ARCs are the finished products. But in ARCs you won't have, if there's any illustrations or maps in them, won't have that information, and proofs are, they may not have that information, or they may just be not the final design. I may be wrong about that, but from everything I know, that's what I've come to learn. Ship. In the reading community, a ship is when you ship two characters together. So you want them to either interact romantically with each other, or you want them to be friends and have a friendship together. So that's what ship or shipping means. You'll find that term, I think, more over on like intense fandom sides rather than a regular BookTube. So if you come across that, that's what that means. A reading slump. So a reading slump is where for some reason you either can't read or you're trying to read but you're not interested in any of the books you're picking up. That is what we call a reading slump. Reading slumps can last anything from a few days, weeks, months, or I know a few people who have been in reading slumps for years. Sometimes you just have to let this thing pass and hope that you're able to pick up something soon. Other times you need to grab maybe a simpler book or a book you absolutely love to see if it pulls you out of the slump. But a reading slump is horrible. I've been in a fair few of those and they're never nice. Now, reading slumps are not to be confused with a book hangover. So a book hangover is the term where when you've read a really good book or a really good series and you've been so invested in the world, but now it's come to an end, you don't know how to move on. You struggle to pick other books up because of this amazing book or series you've read and you're still thinking about it and your mind's still processing it. Now, sometimes book hangovers can actually lead to book slumps because you've read such an amazing thing and you're trying to find something similar, but you can't, so it ends up being a reading slump. Now, I'm sure a good portion of you have heard this one because you're on BookTube, and that is a readathon. So readathons are a certain amount of time that people dedicate to reading books. A lot of these times these are themed, and a lot of these times also they will have prompts. So for instance, you can have a Halloween readathon which will happen, and then you'll have certain prompts which tell you what kind of books you should be reading to fulfill the prompts. So that can be Halloween readathon. So one book is to read a book with a red and black cover. And there are so many readathons throughout the year that happen. So many different booktubers do readathons. I personally love a readathon. It's something about having to find certain books that fulfill certain prompts. For me personally, I love that because it's like a scavenger hunt of my shelves. This one again more falls into the fandom side, but it is OTP. So OTP means the one true pairing. So if you ship two characters together, you can then call them your OTP because to you they are the one true pairing that should happen, that have happened, or that majority of the time you think should have happened instead. So this one was around a lot. I don't know how much it's used now, but there's a term called the feels, and when you have the feels, it means that you have read something that has hit every single emotion in you and you just feel overwhelming love for this book, or hatred. I don't know, you might be able to feel hatred as well. But that's what feels means. The feels is when you have a book that is just so phenomenal, you love it, you can't describe like how much, it's just hits on every part of you. One example of this for me that hits the feels is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. That book destroyed me. I was listening to that book on audiobook and absolutely ruined. The next one I have down on my list is a mood reader. If you are a mood reader, that means that you can only read the things you're in the mood for, which means that sometimes readathons don't really fit with you because you want to read your own stuff. Mood readers can also fall into the category of seasonal readers, which means that say around Halloween time you only want to read Halloween books. Around Christmas time you only want to read December books. December books? That's not a thing. Christmas, that's the word I was looking for. God, I'm tired. Or it could be that you want to read like romance, fluffy romance summary books in summer, or things that take place on the beach in summer. That's essentially, you get the gist. Binge read. Now, I've done this a fair few times, but unfortunately with my mind, I get bored kind of halfway through, so I have to divert to something else. But binge reading is when either you binge read a series, so you've collected all the series and you're reading them back to back to back, or it could be that you've got an author and you're reading his, hers, or their works back to back to back as well. Now, again, this one I feel like is kind of an obvious one, is a spoiler. So if something's got spoilers in it, it means it's something that is going to absolutely ruin the book. It's either going to be a key plot piece or a plot twist or something that is going to ruin that book, because it's going to give something major away in it. A lot of people nowadays note and point out when they're going to reveal a spoiler or when something is spoilery or spoiler free. POV. Now, a lot of books have a certain POV or can have multiple POVs, and POVs means point of view. So personally, I kind of enjoy it when you've got a couple of characters in a book where you see their different points of view from the story. However, for me, too many and my mind gets confused. Okay everyone, that's all I've got on my list. Like I said, there's a few videos like this around, so if I haven't covered one of the ones you're unsure about, you can either go check out one of the other creators' videos or leave me a comment down below and I will see if I can answer it. But other than that, thank you so much for watching and I will see you later. Bye!